Something I've talked about so often here reminded me of a celebrity that I heard at the 2019 MTV Movie and TV Awards. A very unlikely person to be offering this bit of advice that I give out every week, but somehow it has really stayed with me. And this is what he said. Here's the thing that I want to share with you. Because there is another side to being your authentic self, your true self. And that's the side where the magic is on. That's the side that is gold. Well, yes, it is important to be yourself. You've got to recognize the joy and the responsibility of bringing everybody with you. And you do that by being kind, by being compassionate, by being inclusive and straight up just being good to people. Because that's exactly what matters. And do you know who that celebrity was? The Rock. Truer words were never spoken. Being your authentic self and being proud of that self, that is where the magic lies. That is what has always been the most important thing. So many of us women over 60, we sometimes lose our way once the children leave the nest or we retire from our careers. We can feel lost. We can feel lost at sea without a rudder. And the beauty industry hasn't helped, I have to tell you. It has capitalized on selling us dreams of products that will keep us young forever, fortifying that if we don't look young, we are worthless and undesirable. Not a word about the most important part of who we genuinely are, our inner selves. That is exactly where our beauty has always come from. Years ago, my husband kept talking about a famous race car friend of his who constantly had so many women running after him. In my mind, I envisioned this wildly handsome man. But do you know what? Instead, when I finally met him, my initial reaction was shock in how unattractive I thought he was. At the time, I was guilty of only superficially reacting to his outer appeal. As I got to know him better, it became more and more attractive, and actually, he became quite handsome. His inner charm, his inner attractiveness was so strong, it radiated and translated into one very handsome and successful man. Trust me, that is how strong our inner authentic self, our true self is. We have to believe that we are worthy and that we deserve all that life will bring us. Once you find that pot of gold within yourself, it's your responsibility to share it with others. We should not leave anyone behind. I have often been asked why at my age I would want to be a life coach, a YouTube influencer, or take the time and responsibility of sharing my years of living here on YouTube. My answer was given to me by Dwayne Johnson. I don't want to leave anyone behind. Everyone deserves to have the best possible life, even over 60. When my husband was alive, he kept complaining that I would leave lipstick on our glasses. And at his age, he was in his 90s, I kept reminding him that he was so lucky, and he was a lucky duck at his age to still have a hot woman around to mess up his glasses with a Chanel shade named after him, Arthur. Well, I took Arthur and the children on his 90th birthday on a transatlantic round trip on Cunard Queen Mary. And that exact lipstick, Arthur, I believe it's 444 in the Chanel section at the boutique. And I decided, heck, why not? Why not spend $50 on me? I love my husband, even though he's passed. But I also love lipstick. There is something to be said about growing older. And I remember Arthur would remind everyone when he would get in and out of trouble with his etiquette police. He would say, "Oh, I'm an old guy." And he would do the head-scratching things. And believe it or not, he would get away with it. Because he is what? Old. Recently, I had a phone call from friends who have been together for 30 years. Now, she has never been married, and he has. They've lived together for those years. She is well over 80, and he's a bit younger. Well, the problem is she's afraid to fly. So they have traveled the world together for 30 years by tramp steamers, cruise ships, trains, and car. Now, on his part, that love is probably one of the strongest I have ever heard. I know my husband would have left me years ago if he, for 30 years, had to take freighters to get from point A to point B when traveling. But for our friends, everything for 30 years seemed just fine. They were both in the together groove without strings attached. They lived in her Manhattan apartment and vacationed in his Pocono house in Pennsylvania, and they traveled the world in between. Well, I recently got a phone call, and I had to sit down after I got it. They were getting married, and I am invited to the wedding. True, I am going to the wedding in July. I guess there's something to be said about growing older and not giving a hoot what others think. I guess you could think of it all sometimes, that it takes couples longer than others to realize that they are truly in love. Forever love. Oh, I wonder. She probably never leaves her lipstick on drinking glasses, so she finally got her man. I can remember when I lived up north. As soon as I saw the daffodils pop their heads up in the woods, I knew spring was here and that I'd soon be able to shedding those outside layers and replacing them with less and less. Looking forward to wearing jeans, tees, and my boho fashions without layers was fashion freedom. The me I had been hiding all winter could finally breathe. The fresh air and sun were the elixirs I looked forward to as winter closed its doors. Oh, how I loved summer. Well, now that I live in a tropical climate, those seasonal changes are all but a memory. It's maxi dresses, tees, jeans, in an uncovered and fashion-free life. The stuff I had dreamed of my whole life has finally come true, and I should be happy, right? Well, for me, the fashion challenge of shedding has turned into the fashion challenge of the same old, same old. How does one not tire of dressing for the same season all year long, year after year? For me, the answer is trying to be as creative as possible with what I have. The challenge is to create different combinations in my outfit pairings and adding unique pieces of accessories, scarves, belts, and necklaces. Surprise myself by mixing plaids and florals, shocking, unusual color combinations, perhaps pink and red, purple and yellow, and sequins and denim. When buying new, I don't bring anything into my wardrobe that can't be mixed and matched with what I already have. Even in an eccentric way, it has really fit in. I suppose the moral of this story is to be careful of what you wish for. You can't have it all, but we can make it work for us. All it takes is just a wee bit of creative thinking to keep from becoming a fashion frozen in a tropical climate.